Hello, everyone.
Hey, hey.
Hey, we are back. We are back. We are back. We're back. You see, we got the new branding going on with the elevated life in the corner over there.
Woo.
Whoop, whoop. Um, so I love today's topic because I think it's going to be definitely something that you should share, comment, like, and share on, right?
Yeah.
So Danielle and I, we went through kind of the pre kind of part of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't give her the 9 ones because I want her to respond authentically. And when I told her, hey, we're going to talk about cognitive distortions, what did you say?
I said, you didn't give me them big words to practice.
And
You said negative thinking.
I said, well, in therapy, we call those cognitive distortions. And, I really think that this is a great conversation. One, because I think that we all have them. We
Yeah.
all have these cognitive distortions. We all have these ways that we see the world. And my goal, and I'm sure your goal too, is to ensure that the individuals that's listening to this podcast understand why they see the world the way they see it, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I mean today's show title, negative thinking.
Stop
Stop it now. Right? Stop
it.
it
Yeah.
now. And this is a framework of mine that is trademarked. And I probably should put the little TM on there. And I really started this because I really felt like, you know what? Before we start some things, there's some things we need to stop doing. You know,
Amen. Yes.
and if we don't stop doing them, then they're going to interfere with our growth, especially if we have these cognitive distortions. We're not even going to be able to recognize our growth or anything like that. But kind of before we go into that conversation, let's do our introductions. And I want you to start.
All right. Danielle McArthur of DCDR Solutions, entrepreneurship, small business coaching, focused on attacking the mindset of those new entrepreneurs who are jumping into this big mess and helping them navigate becoming a new entrepreneur, making sure they have systems in place to allow their business to be sustainable. Engineer Sheila over there on the ones and twos.
Right. Right. Oh my
But
goodness.
yeah, helping people start businesses and keep them going. That's what I do.
Yeah. I love what you do too. And the audience that hear me say this, I just love it because I feel like there's stages, right? So you go through phase one, and then you go to phase two, and then you go through phase three. And a lot of times people are playing catch up, right? Like they're in phase four and they didn't really do
Phase
what they
one.
needed to do in phase one. And so I just applaud you for choosing that population of entrepreneurs to really do the work.
Because I
And I'm
feel
going
like
to
it's that black period that nobody wants to talk about. So that's why I really like this, and I'm gonna start niching it down even more to like really working with people that are on that edge of I think I want a business or I just started this business. Because then that to me that's a critical point that I don't think there's enough support for that.
and I mean the facts of it is, Miss Danielle, is that what 90% of businesses go out of business in their first year. So you got it's like 90 to 93. I want to say 90 though. And so
Wow.
that means 10% of the individuals that started business after the first year go out of business. But here's the thing, of that 10% that make it the first year, 90% of them go out of business in the next 3 years. Right. And so
Yep.
you're literally dealing with 3% of the population of business starters when we start talking about 4, 5, 6, 7 year businesses,
Yeah.
right? That's like 3% of the population that actually started businesses. And who am I? I am Miss Shiela Little, owner and operator, CEO of Shaper Solutions. I mean, my title didn't change so much, Miss Danielle, but
You're
I've been a therapist.
refining.
Listen, I've been a therapist now for 20 years. And so I did therapy for about 15 years, started my own business, that's Shaping Solutions. And we just do some, mindset work, really helping individuals to really get the right mindset set so they can develop the right skill sets and then take the right actions that's required. So we do a little bit of consulting the problem, coaching the mindset. And then because I'm a therapist, I have the unique gift of, bringing in the therapeutic principles and philosophies to help them heal some spaces that may be blocking them from their growth. And like I said, I'm CEO of Shaping Solutions, Leadership Training Development Inc. And I'm your co-host here at Elevating Life, right? And Elevating Life is an acronym. So life stands for your love of self, your interactions with others, your focus, and your energy, right? And so today's topic, again, is negative thinking. Stop it now. So when I told you, Miss Danielle, we gonna talk about negative thinking, because I sent her a text yesterday, like, okay, we gonna do the show tomorrow. Um, and we apologize for last week because both of us were actually dealing with some illness. So we kind of did a replay. But I said we're gonna do the negative thinking. Stop it now. What was you thinking?
About negative
The
thinking?
negative thinking. Oh well, no, I actually emailed her that this morning because she said, okay, what are we gonna talk about? Then I emailed her and said negative thinking. So when I said negative thinking, what did you?
I could talk all day about that. That was, and I'm gonna try not to, because I was raised in a household of negative thinking and something that I fought my whole life to not do,
Mhm.
because it is ingrained in me, and I acknowledge that. But I think this is something a lot of people need to hear, because it can really ruin your life and limit your life, and I really don't think people understand that.
I don't think people really understand it either. And it's cultural, right? So like
Yes.
we have this culture of just seeing the world from a very distorted view, right?
Yeah.
Which is why the title is Negative Thinking, nine distortions that are stopping you from living the life you desire and deserve, right? So the wait, I want to say, so what did you look up? So you went and researched because
Oh yes.
this is so this is the what did you graduate?
Ohio State. Oh, you
Yeah,
talking about, well, valedictorian in high school, but I don't
yeah,
like
yeah.
to brag.
So
But
she is the research person. That's what I'm trying to say. So this is the research queen. And so
yes,
when you looked up negative thinking, what did you
yeah.
come up with?
So I found an article from my hometown, Cleveland Clinic, which is one of the biggest hospitals in the world, actually, very prominent
Mhm.
hospital. And it had an article talking about negative thinking and how it's literally a part, it's essentially a part of our brain, it's a part of our DNA. It's how we survive as humans because of our ability to see threats where a normal animal couldn't see threats. And
Right.
so it was a very good survival tactic, but
Okay.
now maybe not as applicable in everyday life. And you really have to retrain your brain. And the one thing that I thought was really interesting was they said they estimate about 96% of what you think is going to happen doesn't even happen.
Doesn't even happen. Okay.
Doesn't even happen. The one thing you didn't think about is what actually happens when you're actively just trying to mull over all of this negative thinking, and what's going to happen is what you don't expect to happen.
So listen, because you said that, and I said I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it when we had our pre-show. I'm like, I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna say it on air because I want to see what your response is gonna be. All
Okay.
right. So, so when I go to these seminars, and it's a whole bunch of people that don't look like us in these seminars, right? And they start talking about, yeah, because back when people were cavemen,
Yep.
right? So back when people were cavemen, they developed this mindset of survival, right?
Yep.
Which created the fight, fright, or freeze, right?
Yep.
And we talking about cavemen, right? So
Yep.
this is
Centuries
hundreds,
ago,
centuries,
thousands of years ago.
thousands of years. So me as an African American woman sitting in there like, y'all talking about fight, fight, or freeze happening in caveman days.
Like
But
this
what
been
about
going on
40
for us
years? Yeah, what about 40
real
years ago?
recently.
It's like we just got out of slavery in what, 1864?
But we
Huh?
ain't gonna start breaking down all them black realistic timelines
And
because
then we
I
went
still
into
started in the 50s, civil rights. What are we talking about?
so then we went through all these movements, right? And then we just got the right to vote in, you know, the 60s, right?
Yeah,
So what y'all talking about, this adaptation that happened from
we lived
caveman,
this.
right? From caveman time, this fight, fight, or freeze, right? Is where your amygdala, right,
Yeah.
actually is like looking for the threat, right?
Yeah.
So because it's out there looking for a threat, it's already negatively predisposed.
Yeah.
So the caveman coming out the cave and he looking for the saber-tooth tiger.
Yes.
He's looking for a way to preserve his life.
Boar.
Wild boar, whatever, right?
Storm in the sky.
Yes, exactly. So you telling me that y'all understand the fight, fight, or freeze from cavemen, but you don't understand it when the African American goes into and goes into fight, fight, or freeze. When we just got quote unquote, you know, the freedom of speech or the right to vote, or we're still going through this transition where literally we had to see our ancestors, we got the blood in us from 4 generations. I would just say 4 generations because 5 would be a whole stretch, right? So within 5 generations was a slave.
Yes.
Right. So when we start talking about fight, fight, or freeze today, right, and how that plays with distorted thinking and the fight, fight, or freeze, or just the skewed way that we see the world, or these protective lenses that we wear, some of it ain't even yours. And I think that's why I want to bring this up, because some of it ain't even your own. It's naturally given to you through the blood. So I think it's remarkable that you came up with, you know, that particular article, because it matches so well with the negative thinking and how to stop it now, right? Because you are responsible for stopping it, because we're not, quote unquote, experiencing the same environments that our ancestors have experienced. Now, is there still a threat there? Absolutely. Yeah. But the threat is not nearly, you know, as who should I text? I didn't say text.
Nobody talking to you, Siri.
Right. The threat is nearly not as bad as it was for my great grandmother. Right.
Yes. And I actually wrote that down, where it's like, it's still very, and it's crazy that you brought that up because I didn't even think about that. But yeah, I get into fight, flight, or freeze when cops pull me over, even though I know I don't have a problem. So for us, it is a little bit different, but at the same time, I think it's a skill that should be saved when you need it.
Right.
Like, you know, you went out with the girls and now something's not right. Now trigger that negative thinking and then navigate it appropriately. But, you know, don't say I'm not even going to go out because this could happen. You know, that's
right. And so many of us, and so we're talking to the people who want to elevate in life. So the people who really feel like they desire and deserve more in their life, right? And so they really want to elevate. And so these distortions are maybe stopping them, and they could be rational thoughts to them, but they're irrational because they're actually stopping you from getting to the goal that you want to accomplish. So Ms. Danielle, the first question is, what is a cognitive distortion, right? So I said non-cognitive distortions are stopping you from living the life that you desire and deserve. So what are cognitive distortions? So you want to read that?
Sure. Cognitive distortions are irrational thoughts that can influence your emotions. Everyone experiences cognitive distortions to some degree, but in their more extreme forms, they can be harmful.
They can be harmful, right? So this is the friend who, like, you know, I'm not going out because somebody may
rob me,
you know what I mean? And now it's doing more harm to you because everybody needs, there's a level of health healthiness and socialization. That's a part of our self-care, connecting with others and being connected to others. And so when these type of thoughts now are stopping us from connecting, then now that's unhealthy, right? It's not serving you in the way that you want to be served. And you're at home feeling like I'm lonely and, nobody wants to be my friend. And you don't realize, no, it's actually this filter or this distortion that you have on life that's preventing you from actually experiencing the life that you feel like you deserve. When you hear that definition, what comes up for you?
The thing that really rings is that harmful piece, because I think of it from more of a just stress. It's stress. And if you've ever researched anything about stress kills you. Like, so even if you go out, but you're still plagued with these negative thoughts, then your blood pressure's up and you're putting stress on your body, and it hurts. Like, and I've been the biggest proponent of trying to get people not to do this. I love it when people tell me they can't do something, or, something doesn't work that way. And I love explaining how, that's not a rational thought, and then the big word, irrational. Right. Irrational.
Right. So that's the thing that stood out to me. It's the irrational thoughts, right? Meaning that, so we have rational thoughts. This makes sense. Rationalize, right? I call it rationalize, right? So actually, like 1 + 1 = 2, but sometimes we use that as an excuse. This is like you saying 1 - 1 = 2, and that's just not at all
math.
Right? It ain't mathing, right? So the 9 that we want to get through, because we 17 minutes in. So I want to kind of get through it because it is a lot of information. And if you want the download, either you can put a hand raise, drop me one, or whatever, and I'll definitely email it right to you. So either you can DM us at our, at our I Am Shaping Solutions, or at DCR Solutions.
Yeah, DCDR Solutions, or Danielle McArthur, Shiela Little.
Or go to our Elevating Life page on Facebook and message us. So the first, though, because I do have these down, so I'm just saying, if you want it, you can get it. But the first one is magnification and minimalization. Miss Danielle, read that. What is magnification and minimalization?
Right. Exaggerating or minimizing the importance, someone else's achievement, or inappropriately shrinking things until they appear tiny, your own desirable qualities. Interesting.
Now listen, so many people deal with this, and I put this first because I hear a lot of people in my sessions that's like, I want confidence, I want to feel more prettier, I want to feel, I don't feel good enough at work. These are people who like, I don't feel good enough. And I'm like, okay, how did you get on your performance evaluation? Well, I got all overachievements, but I don't know why they gave me overachievements, because you see what I'm saying? So you're getting
lessons.
Right. So you're getting back from life, right, a response that either you're beautiful, you're doing the right thing, you're getting the performance evaluation. Even in relationships, I hear this a lot, where women don't feel like they're worthy enough or good enough for their boyfriend, and their boyfriend or husband or their mate, I'm just going to say mate, is telling them like, no, you are enough, you're good enough, you're pretty enough, or whatever. And they come to me like, but I just don't feel pretty enough, and I just don't feel good enough, right? And so they're minimizing their own selves, right? And it's irrational. Why are you doing that, right? Yeah. There's no, and it's an exaggeration of it, like, or someone else's achievement, like, Oprah. I just watched a little hair thing on Hulu. And I think that they did a really good job, but I could minimize that and be like, well, she's $1 billion person, so of course she gonna have the money to change. You see what I'm saying? Like, minimize the impact of, and we see this in our community. Old girl just, opened up a beauty salon. Old girl just opened up a shop, and then we minimize, oh yeah, well, she
Well,
not
you
gonna
know,
be
it's on
able
that one street. Ain't nobody gonna drive over
to. Right.
there.
And
Girl,
so
give her credit.
we really need to stop this distortion, right, of minimizing or magnifying our negative and minimizing other people's positive, and in some way to make us feel adequate because it's still not making you feel adequate.
And now that you've explained, I used to do the minimizing my achievements. I used to
Yeah.
do that all the time. And it came from a place where of previous, I don't want to say trauma. Trauma's a little extreme, but it came from a place of people only complimenting me when they wanted something. And so as I got older, it turned into, why are you complimenting me? What do you want from me? Because at a previous point in time, I had paired it with a negative association because of that specific situation, and I allowed that to carry with me, and I would not receive the accolades and all the stuff that I was doing because I wasn't trusting of the person's intentions.
Right. And this is what, remember, a distortion is when it becomes harmful. So here's the thing. A lot of us as entrepreneurs, Miss Danielle, go through this. Like, we will minimize another person's success, right? In some way to make us feel good, right? And then when we become successful, we project that belief out on other people. Does that make sense? So now, I'm not in business. I see somebody in business, oh, she thinks she the stuff, or oh, she ain't all that, or whatever, right? Now, when I get to that position, and now people are telling me, oh my gosh, you're doing amazing. Like, I can't receive it because remember, my belief is minimizing this position, right? And so this is why it's harmful, because one, it doesn't build community between you and your colleagues, and then it gives it lessens your quality, right? The things you really desire in life, right? You start to minimize that. And then I put 1B for this one, catastrophizing, right? Seeing only the worst possible outcomes of a situation. So this is a way also that we magnify, minimize it. So catastrophizing, like, you only see the worst possible outcome. Like,
my mama used to do, when I'm 16, 17, you can't go out, you're gonna get kidnapped. Really? What's the likelihood of that? Yeah, I mean, yes, I could. Like, my mom didn't like us going outside in scant clothing because somebody could be watching you and they would kidnap you. This is what I grew up hearing. So yeah, I'm very familiar with that.
So I was going to Africa. Everybody knew I came back from Africa. And I mean, when I tell you, so many people have this catastrophizing mindset. Like, you're going to go over there and, because you're a beautiful woman, they're going to steal you. And they're going to kidnap you, And when I tell you, I went over there the first day, I almost had an anxiety attack. Like, I literally had to breathe when I got to my hotel, not the one from Johannesburg to Durban, but when I got to Durban that first day and really got to see with myself, like 9 o'clock at night, like, I feel this angst, like, oh, is the door locked? So from like 9 to 11, like, I literally had to go into, because I'm in Africa, like, nothing can happen. Like, I can't call nobody, right? But I start hearing like, oh, they gonna get you. Did the bellboy do this, right? And this is all because of this catastrophizing mindset that either we grew up with or we caught it along the way, that we only see the worst possible outcomes. I mean, it's some people right now, and this is the thing where, good thing happen, good thing happen, good thing happen. I cannot celebrate the good things that are happening, because every time I celebrate the good things that are happening, I feel like something bad is going to happen.
Yep.
Right? Like, in some way, these good things is only preparing me for the bad. Right? So, and that's a kind of it's not truly catastrophizing, because catastrophizing is that they would never recognize the good. Like, everything is bad.
Yes.
Right? Don't use that person's car because you don't know if they got insurance on it. Don't let them pay for your food because they're going to want something for you at the end. Watch your friends because, they ain't really friends. They want something from you, right? And mind you, we just talked about the 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 brain and how we go into fight, fight, or freeze, right? So if you're in fight, fight, or freeze, you're looking for the worst possible outcome. So catastrophizing, 100 years ago, absolutely. But having to do that today is only stopping you from actually having the life that you desire and ultimately deserve.
Pretty much.
Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
Now, this is totally different from disqualifying the positives. And so I put two closer to one because we talked about the magnification, the minimization.
Yeah.
We talked about the catastrophizing, but I just gave the example of disqualifying the positive. So you got three great things that happen. Read. So let's read what it is.
Yeah, you
Disqualifying.
reject positive experience by insisting they don't count for some reason. In this way, you can maintain a negative belief that is contradicted by your experience.
Yes. So I've only experienced bad things in my life.
Yep.
I lost my job. My wife left me. My husband left me. My best friend lied to me. Like, I only experienced negative things in my life. So even, and mind you, it's skewed because that's what you paid attention to, because good things
Yep.
were happening. But because you are a person that disqualify the positives, you only pay attention to the negative things that are happening in your life so that it can keep you in the position you in, so that it can justify why you angry, why you
Yep.
bitter, why you miserable, why you ain't got the job you want, why you ain't got the career you want, why you ain't got the man you want, why you ain't got the help you want. It's literally supporting that. Does that make sense?
Yes. You create this self-fulfilling thing in your head
In your
that
head.
only makes sense to you. And then oh, I don't know why I'm like that, but the thing about this that triggers me is it's like they come in herds though. Like people like this, where they come in herds and then they'll call the other negative thinking friend. Well, and they be like, girl, you right, you shouldn't have. Like, and the
Yes.
cycle just feeds itself.
Yes, yes. And I really want the audience to understand that disqualifying the positive is only creating the habits and showing you back in your life what it is you don't want. Because remember, the quote of the day was, as a man thinketh, so he is. And so if you're a person that disqualifies the positive, but you're seeking positive from the world, right? Nobody ever supports me. And these type of people, you'll hear them say that. Nobody ever does anything for me. Nobody, what you mean? Did such and such just pay your
Yeah,
bills last week? Didn't you just get a raise in this? But
didn't they
they're
help
this,
you get that job?
but it doesn't matter because they're not paying attention to that, because they have a distorted view. And their distorted view is that, you know, life is all negative and nothing good happens to me. Right. Now, not only do we want to be cautious of ourselves not having these beliefs, but we also want to be cautious of people around us that have these distortions, because we as individuals can try very hard to try to penetrate or mitigate, or in some way, I don't know, like manipulate an
Oh,
individual to try to see it your way. But when
yes,
they have a distortion, like, they're going to go right back to the distorted view, right?
yes.
Because they don't realize that they have this. It's like wearing glasses and you don't know that you have these glasses on. More, it's like LASIK surgery. Like, the lens is permanently there until they actually do something to remove it.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Number 3. So we have magnification and minimization, catastrophizing, disqualifying a positive. And number 3 is overgeneralizations.
making broad interpretations from a single or few events, or you see a single negative event as a never-ending pattern of defeat. That's that last part. A single negative,
Negative
but you're
event.
linking it to a pattern.
Hmm. A pattern of defeat. And this is the thing. So let's talk about our friend who doesn't want to go out, like because she feel like something gonna happen to her, right? It's not based off facts. It's not based off anything, right? Like it's a distorted view, a belief that she has that she either caught or was taught.
Mm-hmm.
So now this friend goes out, and just so happened that night, Susie purse gets stolen.
See, that's why I told you I don't go out, because every time I go out, something bad happens.
Every
No,
time. But
lady,
mind you, so this is one time. Susie purse has never got stolen before. We've been out 100 times. This has never happened before. This is like an oxymoron. Like it's not even like we in the safest place in the world, right? So we don't even know how Susie, but that individual will take that event to support, right, her current thought. Like, and see, this why I ain't going out no more, because this is what I'm telling y'all. You know, you can't trust people. That's why I stay my butt in the house, right? And then it's like, but it's a distortion, right? And they're actually looking for the reason. Now, mind you, now here's the catch in this. So all that happened, and then we realized that Susie actually left her purse in the bathroom, right? Mm-hmm. And so Susie, somebody come up and get Susie her purse back. This person, this distortion, they still would be like, yeah, but they could have stole it out the bathroom. Like that's just an event. So you would think like Susie getting her purse back would change this person's framework. No. And this is how you know it's a distortion, because the person is still not willing to change their position, no matter how the information is supporting or it is in direct like contradiction to what they're thinking. Okay,
it's like they completely ignore the evidence and fact.
Yeah. So these are the people that use always. Like there's no good man. Like no good man. Like none. No. You know what I mean? Everybody cheat. Like everybody cheat. Everybody. Like people, all people lie. You can't trust nobody, right? So these are people that use very broad strokes when they talk, right? And they put people in buckets, right? Like they overgeneralize, and it's really truly based off of one or two events that has happened to them, not the majority of the things. So, and that's what makes it flawed, because you experience way more. Like, so they're disqualifying the positives that has happened. They're magnifying the negatives, right? And at some point now they're overgeneralizing these events in their life, right? Yeah. Number 4, mind readers.
You arbitrarily conclude that someone is reacting negatively to you, and you don't bother to check this out. You make a negative interpretation, even though there are no definite facts. Dude, have you met my mama? Is this like a summary of my mind
readers? Now listen.
These are the worst. These used to plague me when I was a manager.
Listen. Ooh. These are people who are mind readers. It's like, so in this session, if I'm talking to either, you know, a person that's trying to start a business, a person that's trying to get back into a relationship, a person that's having a problem in their relationship, a person that's having a problem with their own self, they will make an assumption about the individuals around them. And I would say, so did you actually ask them? Well, no, I ain't asked them.
I could see it on her face. Like, she didn't even have to say it. I just knew, because that's how she came at me. Huh?
So
did you take into consideration maybe this person is having a bad day, or maybe
other variables,
what was being communicated, or anything?
Other variables, yes. And so we have to be very cautious to not be this person that mind reads, because we don't know what's going on in another person's life. Oh, you tried to hit my car. No, I really did try to hit your car.
No,
Actually,
I was looking at
was
my phone and
my brakes went out, or you know what I mean?
yeah,
Whatever the case is, right?
yeah.
It wasn't intentional. Now we're going to get to one that people take things personal, but mind reading is when we attribute a conclusion that someone is reacting negatively to you on purpose, like they're specifically doing it to you, and you don't bother to check this out, right? um oh, he got that TV all loud because he know that annoy me. Well, maybe he got the TV loud because he can't hear, or he don't realize it's loud.
I'll make it quick, but when my mother did not like going out in public. And then she had to start dialysis, which requires her to physically go out in public 3 times a week for
Mm-hmm.
her survival. And they don't like me there because we're in Alabama, we from Cleveland. They don't like me because I'm light skinned. They don't like me because have they said this?
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Nobody has said this. You're drawing these conclusions based off of I don't even know, and cultural differences between black people. Look, we don't talk enough about that, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
man, that mind reading is the worst.
Yeah, and so another one though, and I'm gonna say this: the fortune teller era. You anticipate that things will turn out badly, and you feel convinced that your prediction is an already established fact. So this is again similar to this is under jumping to conclusions, and I thought that I put this, um, which yeah. So this is truly a person, and that's what I should put right here. It's really just jumping to conclusions. This person actually just jumps to conclusions. And we got to fix that because you're jumping to conclusion. You have no facts on it. So mind
Okay.
readers, people who want to tell the fortune, you just jump to conclusion. You have no rational beliefs or thoughts that is supporting that. All right. Number 5, emotional reasoning.
Yes. You assume that your negative emotions reflect how things really are. I feel it, therefore it must be true.
This right here, Danielle, is big, right?
That sounds
Because
like
how many people do you know that I feel it? I feel it. I just feel it in my bones. Like the way the rain is today, I just know it's gonna be a
which that's
bad
an
day.
okay feeling because that's a legitimate one. But as you get older,
Yeah.
found that out.
And so
But
let's talk about the difference between emotional reasoning um and
am I reading?
manifesting,
Oh, okay.
right? Because we do need our emotions to manifest. Like you do have to see it before you see it, right? So
Yep.
you have to see yourself in a position in the life that you desire to deserve before you can actually actualize that life, right?
Yep.
Right. So that's healthy. Emotional reasoning, though, is truly based off of your negative emotion. I
Hmm.
know you lying, Danielle, because every woman that I met that got dreads, like,
They
is a
all lie.
liar. They all lie. So, and it's just, and I'm telling you, I just feel this way when you come around, not realizing that maybe your dreads is triggering this experience that I had with a previous person that had dreads or glasses or whatever it is. So it could be a trigger.
Yeah.
Yes, you are triggered by.
Yeah. So what you're feeling is something, but it's not coming from me.
It's not coming from that person. It's actually an experience that you're having,
Reliving.
yet you're reliving from a previous trigger, and you're emotionally trying to reason that this is true today, and it's not. And so this thing breaks up a lot of relationships,
Mm.
right? Like a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
relationships, because people can't get past, like, the last person I went to get ice cream, and then they stayed an hour and da 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 da. So I just feel like and these are people who really, and they really feel it. but it's a distortion. One, because it's not based on facts today. This person can show you their phone, they can give you cameras, but you still won't let up from
I think I was waiting for you to say it because that's the big part.
yes.
You can think it. And because I used to tell people it's okay, think it. But then are you going back to a rational space where it's like exactly like you said, like, nah, babe, there was a line at the ice cream place. Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah.
Or are you the person, nah, you still lying?
Yeah.
Because I feel it. I feel like you lying. And it's like I just showed you.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So I feel it, and therefore it's true. I mean, I got so many whoopings for this coming up.
Really?
Like I didn't do it. I just feel like you're lying, but I'm really not lying because I didn't do it, right? But because that behavior had been probably done for my brothers or my cousins or whatever, I got in trouble,
Yeah.
because the people felt like that. And we probably are in relationships where we're being abused or being abusive because we feel a certain way and it's not fair to you or the other person. And again, when the facts start to line up and this person still don't want to take their feelings out the equation, like they're still stuck on, yeah, but it got to be something else because, I feel this way. Now, this is very different again than intuition and other things that's more on the lighter side of life. These are all negative dispositions, and these are all distortions, are all ways to keep us from each other or to give us a negative lens of view about each other, right? So 6, all or nothing thinking.
So you see things in black and white categories. If your performance falls short of perfect, you see yourself as a total failure. That's deep.
This is a big distortion for people, Miss Danielle.
Really?
Yes, because of this perfectionism,
Ah,
right?
I was never like that.
In other words, it's perfectionism, right? Like it's not done to perfect,
Yeah.
so it's not good enough, right? And it truly comes from the feeling of not being good enough. So it
Yeah.
is definitely still a distortion because the reason why you have this black and white, it's either yes and black or white. It can't be both. There's no gray in the middle. Is a protective thing, right? And so when your performance falls short of perfect, you feel like you just totally fail, you
Look,
know.
so I gotta say, I had to have a talk with my son recently because he was kind of living in his space. And I had to tell him because he's, been deemed as gifted. He's in accelerated classes. And I had to tell him, like, baby, do it because your worst is probably better than half the people in that class. Like, and I wanted him to hear that. Like, your worst is probably better than somebody's effort. So
Yeah.
don't try to, because he would get stuck in this. It's got to be a certain way. It's got to be a certain way. That analysis paralysis, because that's what I was explaining to him. That analysis paralysis, like, because he was literally not getting grades because he wasn't doing work because he was over analyzing how to do it, and it wasn't for a lack of ability. And it's like, but your grades look like there's a lack of ability, but I know that's not the case. So yeah, that's deep.
So here's the thing with this, and I like that you brought that up because I do want our clients to know, or the people who are watching, that that same thing that she said to her son could be you, right? Your worst effort is still better than somebody's best effort, right?
Facts.
And really hear that, right? Because your your best effort, your worst effort in your gift.
Yes.
So just say a singer. Beyonce worst is key. It's better
Okay.
than my
Okay.
best key. You know what I mean? My grandma's worst cake is better than my best cake. You understand?
Like
So
Maya Angelou's worst poem.
right. It's way better than,
Way better
yeah,
than
my
half
best
the
is gone.
world's poems.
Yeah. And when we start to see it like that, and this is how we know that it's not a distortion, because you're able to receive that, right?
Yes.
You're able to receive, like, oh yeah, that do make sense. because I am gifted, right? But
And that
when
was
you,
something I had to come to terms with. And that's why I wanted to make sure he knew that, because I used to
yeah,
do that to myself.
yeah,
And then when I started to realize, like, I would make stuff up on the fly and people would be amazed by it, like, oh, okay,
yeah, yeah,
okay.
okay, yeah. So I just want people to know that all or nothing thinking, or just even in relationships, we see this a lot. Either there's no kind of, and I don't like the word compromise. I love the word equity though. Like
Okay.
the value you bring to a situation and experiences, it don't have to be equal to, but it could be equitable, meaning as valuable as, right? So if my cooking is a value added to the relationship, and then you taking out the trash is a value added to relationship. Like,
I love
no, you're only taking the trash out like once every 3 days, and I'm cooking every day. But
yeah,
the value that I feel from
yes,
seeing the trash not fall over the trash can, right,
yeah,
is worth that exchange in equity, right? And so I think that when we start looking at value and things like that, we go from this very much what's that word, scarcity mentality
okay,
of sacrifice, like what am I sacrificing and compromising
yeah.
versus what am I bringing to the table. And some people can't do that because of this black or white thinking.
And
Either you all in or you out, you know what I mean?
you know another example, and I'm sure you've experienced this, people that don't want to start a business because they can't have a complete business the minute they start.
Yes, yes,
So they don't even
absolutely.
want to try because it's like, but it's not 100% going.
Yeah, and that's
Okay.
why I talk about the perfectionism thing, right? Like a lot of people who deal with procrastination has this black or white thinking or this perfectionism where, where all the T's are not crossed and all the I's are not dotted. So in the reflection of it is that so something is wrong with me,
Yeah.
right? That in some way now you're the failure, and in some way now is something wrong with you, which lends to number 7, personalization.
You see yourself as the cause of some negative event, which in fact you are not primarily responsible for. Ooh.
Yeah. So a lot of people have this, Miss Danielle. They personalize everything that don't have nothing to do with you, right? Like, man, if I would have only been here, 5 minutes early, then I could have prevented that. Or if I would have just been okay. So today I had a client, and so she's saying that her mate is like narcissist, which I hear a lot of clients throwing this word around,
It's a
narcissist,
popular
and
word nowadays.
yeah, and like these words. But then she was like, but if I would have been nicer, or if I would have only changed my tone, because I'm a loud person. And I'm like, well, one, those two things don't fit, right? So he can't be a narcissist and then you take responsibility of changing, because narcissists, you ain't gonna change them. That's why they call them a narcissist, right? So it would be really nothing you did that could
Nothing.
change his behavior. We see this with kids a lot. They personalize like, oh, my mommy was sad because I didn't clean
I
my room,
spilled the
or
water.
I
Yeah.
spilled the water, I did this. And as they heal as adults, one of the things that my goal is to try to do is to take you out the equation. Like, no, it's not your fault. Even in relationships, this is a big thing for me, for females. Like, no, you didn't make him cheat. No, you didn't make him lie. No, you didn't make him do that thing. Like, those were choices he made, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna say 90% of the time. Now, is there some situations where your intention was to do that hurtful thing? Probably.
Yeah.
But when your intentions were good, and so many of us deal with this personalization where we just personalize everything. Life. Have you ever experienced that, Miss Danielle?
I would say a lot of mine was from childhood stuff
Mm-hmm.
where I put blame on how we were treated just because, like, I wasn't assigning it correctly. And then as I grew up and got more perspective on life, it was just like, no, that wasn't the case at all. You know, like, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's why you said it, because a lot of this, more of mine has been in the childhood space, because I was very aware of things, but then you're still a child and you think, oh, that's my fault. Oh, I could have did this.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Because
could have did
I
this.
can't
Mommy and
think
daddy
right.
got a divorce because of me. My brother's not talking because of me. My grandma's sick. Like, we personalize these things, and it's actually a distortion. And here's the thing. Let me add this. And were you finished? Because I didn't want to interrupt
I was
you.
gonna say one more. My son. So that was a hard one. My younger son, who's autistic, and I know a lot of moms of autistic children. You can't help it, and I mean, and I feel like it's almost something that you have to, like I said, with a lot of these, go through it and then get out of it.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it's, well, maybe it was because his daddy was this and his daddy did this, or maybe if I wouldn't have been so stressed out when I was pregnant, or maybe, and I had all those, and I eventually just, I can't, because it's not going to change anything.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. So you see yourself as the cause of some negative event. And I should have put an underline over there, right? Because that's what the personalization is that you are the reason for this bad thing happening. And that's what
Yep.
a distortion is, right? So all of these things, all six of these before this, is the negative side of things, because
Yes.
we can take accountability for the positive things we do, even though we get, sometimes judged for it in that
Yeah.
independent stage that we talked about, like when you go through your ego stage and have to develop, like, yeah, that's me. Them
Yeah.
my shoes. That my house, right? That's a part of development that's actually healthy. But a lot of times, even in that, we disqualify the positives, all the stuff that we've done, right? Because
Yes.
distorted views is distorted views. And if you tend to have one, you tend to have multiple of these, right? Because you have a very much survival mentality, you're very much in fight, fight, or freeze, and you're very much resistant to life. And this frame or this lens has happened to you where you're seeing life a little skewed in the negative. All right. And
Yeah.
you are so correct. A lot of moms who have kids that have birth defects, a lot of moms who have miscarriages or whatever, anything around their kids, take a lot of personal, like a lot of that personally, and it affects them. And the reason why we don't want to use personalization, all or nothing thinking, emotional reasoning, mind reading, overgeneralization, minimization, maximization, and catastrophizing is because the cause of that, the effect of that cause, is you feeling guilt, shame,
Yep.
remorse, resentful, um,
Negative
stress.
emotion after negative
Yes.
emotion after negative
So
emotion.
it's what it's creating in your life, the reason why we want to get out of these habits. And then number 8 is a mental filter. This is another distortion. It's very interesting.
Yes, you pick out a single negative detail and dwell on it exclusively so that your vision of all reality becomes darkened, like the drop of ink that discolors the entire beaker of water. Oh, work. I,
so
man. And
so and I'm gonna give it to it in extreme. A wedding day.
oh,
Wedding day. Beautiful wedding. You spent a lot of money. You getting all of this thing, but the the button on your barrette broke, but
yeah,
it was like your favorite barrette, right?
yeah.
But it broke. And instead of you moving on to experience the great things that the wedding had,
I can't.
I can't go out because this button broke,
And don't
right?
nobody even know you supposed to have a beret.
Right.
Don't
And I
nobody.
think that's it. Nobody else knows the information that you know. I just gave a very exaggerative example of this, but this happens. Okay, so I remember one time I
Hey,
threw a
I got
surprise party. I'm not gonna say I threw a surprise party first, but I threw a surprise party at this time for my boyfriend at the time, and it was a 2 day extravaganza. And before we went, I was like, "Get your haircut, get your haircut, get your haircut." And so that person didn't want to get their hair cut. So I was like, okay, whatever. It's not like you got a fro or anything like
Yeah,
that. So the limousines pull up because I'm saying it's extravaganza. Like we had the boats, we had all this. Like I literally, it was a great experience. I had a great experience.
that's all
But
that
this
matters.
individual, like when as soon as we got into the limousine, they were like, I can't believe you ain't tell me to get a haircut. And literally, when we went to the restaurant, they talked about that. They talked about that in the limousine. We had a boat ride. They talked about that on the boat ride the first day for brunch. They talked about it when we had the VIP the next. Well, not the next day, because the next day they kind of knew, so they went and got the haircut. But that first day of events, like because they didn't have the fair warning to get a haircut, like it literally was a mental filter for how that whole day was experienced. And I'm like, okay, you don't got a haircut. You still look good. Like, yeah. And they still look good because it wasn't like the hair was like I said, overgrown. It was just like wasn't a fresh haircut. But I mean, that whole day was just negative. Like, didn't want to really take pictures, didn't really. And it's just like, okay, let's move past that. You didn't get the haircut. You don't remember me saying.
Like,
And here's
that's
the
exactly
unhealthy.
what I said. Feel it and get past it.
Yes, yes. And here's the thing about this. So, and this is why I say it's not just good for you to know your mental filters, but it's also good if you're in relationship with people who have these mental filters because they can affect you with
Yes.
these mental filters, right? Because that day I actually felt like, was there more I could have done to make this individual get a haircut? And my resolve was when that limo pulled off, there is nothing I could have did. Like I text, I called, I said, hey, because it was a surprise party. I wasn't gonna tell you about the surprise. I was like,
Yeah.
I really think you should get a haircut, you
Yeah.
know. And they didn't want to. And I had to give it up. But it was so many times that I was in relationships like with like that, either with friends or my parents or relatives. I'm just gonna say more relatives that had more mental filters that really stopped me from actualizing the life that I wanted to live, you know, as I was younger, that I
Yeah.
had to break through their mental filter and
Yes.
and move on with my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
Um, and as a business owner, I think we deal with people who have negative mental filters, right? So they will pick out one negative detail and
I
dwell
can't
on
do
it
that.
exclusively so
Yes.
that won't go out and do the very thing that you feel like you want to do or need to do or should achieve. So, you know, yeah. So, and then if you got distortions anyway and you deal with people with all of these filters, then you can develop the should statement filter.
The
Um,
emotional consequence is guilt. When you direct should statement toward others, you feel anger, frustration, and resentment. Hit me with,
yes,
look, I'm not a negative thinking person. Hit me with some
right.
examples of that one.
So you try to motivate others with shoulds and shouldn'ts as if you had to be whooped or punished because you couldn't experience it. So it's like, no, you should have did this or you should have did that. And we talked about this in emotional
Oh,
intelligence, right? The whole those first two layers of the victim mindset and then the first one,
mhm.
or must or ought, like you must do this or you ought to do this, right? Because it's kind of like this parallel lane that, and it goes back to just really not being good enough because it's actually more of a reflective look on life. And again, when I say that it starts, the consequence is emotional guilt, right? The emotional consequence of this is guilt that you feel. And then when you direct should statements towards others, you feel angry or frustrated or resentful, meaning um so you with your mom or whatever, and you chose to get your boys blue jeans or whatever, and your mom is like, you should have bought them slacks because this is what young
That's
boy,
what
this is a
proper
problem
boys
that young
should
boys
wear.
have. Yeah, you know what I mean. So it's directed at you. That should and ought is directed at you in a very angry way. You know what I mean? And we
Oh,
see
look,
this
you just
in,
triggered a bunch that just
yeah,
flooded in now that I'm thinking
yeah.
about it from
So
my mom.
people get frustrated with you, like, well, you should have called first, because if you would have called, I would have been prepared, or you should have did this, when you know, like, okay, one, it just came up for me.
Yeah.
Um, I really
You
wasn't
put,
thinking like that. Like, but the distortion in this is that it's a negative emotion attached to, you know, the other, the opposing thought.
yeah.
Okay, uh I didn't do that, my bad, I wasn't thinking that. Like, oh, okay, let's keep carry on. No, we're
Yeah.
actually arguing about
Yeah.
what should have happened, what could have happened, what have ought to happen, and what must happen, right? So it's like a little bit of fortune telling, a little bit of generalization, right? But all of it is based off of what is, because you could tell me what you would have done or what I should have did, and if I would have did this, then that thing could have happened. You could have told me all of that. But the reason why this should statements are bad, because they evoke emotion, negative
Yes.
emotions, right? Even in ourselves, we start to feel guilty, like, man, if I would have just, waited 5 minutes, or man, I should have just went on and took the test when I was thinking about taking the
I should
test,
have
or oh
invested.
man, like,
I should have
yeah, I
invested.
should have just went on and saved my money. And we talked about this in the small business podcast, right? I should
Yeah.
have invested my money, if I would have just, if I should have saved a long time ago, because if I would have did that, then I could have been here, right? And all of that shoulda, coulda, woulda, it's like a whole place that's festering with anger,
Yes.
frustration, annoyance with people. I should not have talked to them. I should have probably been their friend. I shouldn't have gave him my number. I should have gave him this. But it's an alternate universe, and you can't
Yes.
go back,
You can't
right?
let it go.
Let it go, right?
Let it go.
So those are the 9 cognitive distortions that are stopping you right now from giving the life that you desire and deserve. And remember, what is a cognitive distortion? A cognitive distortions are irrational thoughts that can influence your emotions. I should have said in a negative way. Everyone experienced the cognitive distortions to some degree, but in their more extreme forms, like the 9 that I just talked about, they can be hurtful to you and the people around you, and ultimately just truly stopping you from having the life that you desire and deserve. And this negative thinking, I'm just telling you guys, y'all need to stop it now. See how I did that also? Stop it now, right? Stop it now. And if you guys need to learn how to stop it now, I have my Stop It Now program, which we're launching at the end of this month. I got to talk to Miss Lachey. The end of this month, yeah.
I'm
And
excited.
yeah, and if you guys can't wait for that, we join our 30-day affirmation challenge, which is manifest your life in 30 manifest your life 30-day affirmation challenge, where you get 30 affirmations every day, an affirmation a day, to help change and shift the way you see yourself and the way you see your life that you're experiencing.
Yes.
Remember to follow us at Elevate in Life on Facebook. You can always get this affirmation challenge right on the Shaping Solutions page. You just click that little link, but I am going to add one to the show. Today's title: negative thinking. Stop it now. Quote of the day: as a man thinketh, so is he. And when we're trying to get the life that we desire and deserve, Miss Danielle, I think it's very important that we become the change that we want to see in the world, because we
Yes.
don't attract what we want, we attract who we are. Remember, this show is up so all the time. So all comments and responses are welcome. So if you have any questions for Danielle and I, just leave them in the chat. You can contact me at I Am Shaper Solutions, and Miss Danielle at DCDR Solutions,
Yep. Yep.
um, for a free consult.
Yep.
Any information that you want about elevating your love of self, your interactions with others, your focus, and your energy. Did you have any closing words for today?
I just wanted to say, because I know, of course, you got your whole Stop It Now program, but for me, it's the negative thoughts are there. It's about, like she said, stop and assess them.
Mm,
What is the likelihood that this is going to happen? if that thing that you think is going to happen, what's the severity? What's the impact of, a lot of these things? Because that's something that I've really, like I said, I grew up in a very negative environment, and I actively chose to go against it because I had to use those tools to be like, well, the likelihood is, and just assessing those negative thoughts because they're never going to go away. So it's just
Never.
about how you handle and how you grow through those negative thoughts. And the better you attack them, the better you'll get at pushing them down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an
Yeah.
active effort. That's what the article said, and you have to put the effort in.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen
Absolutely.
overnight.
I'm glad that you said the awareness thing, because I feel like that's the first step. I have this thing, it's called the Art of Life, right?
Yeah.
ART. And the A is for awareness in anything, in all things. You got to become aware,
Yes.
right? Of whatever that thing that you're doing. So if it's the distortions, that's, you have to become aware of, okay, if is this a distorted, is this a distortion that I'm thinking? Is this a, you
Is this
know,
rational or is this irrational?
rational, right?
Start right
Right,
there.
right. And once you do that, the R in that the art of life, the R is to release it, right?
Oh,
So now you got to release whatever that belief is, like let it go, right? And this is very challenging for people because we can become aware, and this is what happens in therapy, and me and you was having this conversation, that a lot of times in therapy people become aware of the condition that got them to need therapy, but it's very difficult for them to release it.
oh,
Does that make sense?
yes, because
So
it's a part. It's exact. Every scenario we've gone through is okay. You're here.
yeah,
Let it go
yeah, yeah.
and keep it moving.
Yeah, but but because it's so much of their identity, right?
Yeah.
And now I really didn't know that this is why I'm having issues in my relationship, right? So I go see a therapist, and the therapist say, "Well, you know what, Sheila, you have issues in your relationship because of the relationship that you actually had with your dad when you were younger." And your grandfather, whatever, you know what I mean. So you was around a very authoritative men, right? That
Yeah.
invoke fear in you. And then you didn't have a healthy relationship with men, right? And so your condition now is that you want to be the alpha female,
Yeah.
right? So that's the awareness that I get, right?
Yep.
So now when I go to men, I use that as a reason, right? Versus releasing it.
Yes.
Right. So now I go in like, well, you just got to understand that this is who I am, because, I didn't grow up with you see what I'm saying? And
Like you missed
so,
the point.
but, and so a lot of times as therapists, we're making you aware of, right, these situations so you can release that story, right?
Mm,
And
yeah.
then take on, that's what the T is, take on, tune in, or transform yourself to a different space, to a different story, right? So
Mm,
become aware, release, right? Not retain, not, like keep it, but or reason with it, right? So you're gonna become aware of the situation, release the narrative, the reason, and then tune in, tap in,
tap
turn
it.
on,
Oh,
right?
got a lot of tea.
A different narrative. I actually got that from Abraham Hicks. She be talking about
Oh,
some good.
that's
I
now. I
think,
was about to say that's now. Really.
yeah. But you gotta tune in, tap in, and turn on like a different narrative, right? And so
Yes.
people get stuck when it's time to be the artist of their life, and that's where I feel like now, beyond therapy, getting a coach, getting somebody to kind of help you now create this different narrative that is supported in success and out of survival, not from fight, fright, or freeze, but from truly a success mindset, really not running away from your past, but running towards your future, right? Which is
Yeah.
two different directions, two different intentions, right? Running away from our past is more of what I want to avoid, right?
Yeah.
And running towards your future is more of what I want to attain and what I want to become. And so, how we elevate in life is truly that, recognizing this art to life. So I'm glad that you said that, because we're going to live with these thoughts for the rest of our life,
Yes.
right? It's not, you can't change them. But I also give this scenario, Miss Danielle, about a playlist, right? So in life, we have playlists that
Yeah.
has been given to us, right? This is how we know songs from like the 1960s. Like I know pretty much every 70s song because I heard it when I was little, right?
Yeah.
I didn't forget those songs, right? I just added to my playlist as I got older. I started to learn different songs that was from my generation and beyond that my parents didn't even know. Like they like, who is that artist? Now I know all my parents' artists,
Or
right?
even going back. Like I
Yeah,
explored classical for a while.
yeah, I know all of that, but it's hard for my parents to kind of connect with the new artists that I am,
Yeah.
and I say that about our thoughts. So your thoughts is like a playlist, and you literally capture everything on your parents' playlist because they taught it to you, they've shown
Yeah.
it to you, you've heard it, right?
I like that.
Now, that's always going to play every time. That's going to always trigger for you. I remember that song, that feeling, that emotion when you heard it at on Saturday morning when I smelt the lights on and all the lights came on and the blues was playing in the background. I could tell you where I heard that song and what happened. That's going to stay there, right?
Yes.
Now, but I have the beauty of creating a different or adding music to this playlist, right? Adding new ideas, adding new ways of thinking, adding new ways of being. Now, when I add my stuff onto this playlist, how many times do you think that old song is going to play? I'm asking.
Yeah. It's gonna lower the likelihood of that playing.
It's going to lower the likelihood. It's still in my playlist. That means
It's
like
still in there.
every,
Playlist
yeah,
on
I might,
random. It's on
yeah,
random, by the
it's
way. Let's
on
call that
random.
out. It's on random.
Yeah. So I'm still going to hear that thought, but I'm
But
not going to hear it as much because I've downloaded these new songs, these new experiences, and these new beliefs, right? To my playlist. So I only hear the old stuff every once in a while. So I may only be triggered in that way every once in a while. And that's
yep,
really the only way we can shift and transform us by adding new information. And that's
adding
where the
new
tuning
information.
in, tapped in, and turn on like this new playlist for yourself. So that's my little art of life sequence. I really do thank you for saying that whole awareness thing though, because I do feel like we have an intelligence, and if we can allow our intelligence to really work, then all we got to do is click up like, oh, okay, I'm aware that I have that distortion. And
Yeah.
actually, life will start to shift,
Yes.
if you're able to release.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Miss Danielle. And I
No
want to
problem.
thank you for, coming on the show today. Your presence is appreciated,
Oh,
right?
thank you, man.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I want to thank the audience. I thank you for your comments. I thank you for your likes, and I thank you for your shares.
Great subject
Remember,
too.
yeah, great subject. You know,
Miss Sheila put a lot of
yeah,
work into that one.
I, I try. I'm trying. Negative thinking. Stop it now. That's today's show. Hey, like I said, like, share, comments are welcome. If you have any questions or whatever, our replay will be up on our YouTube channel, right? Shaper Solutions. You go to YouTube. Thank you guys again for watching another Elevating Life episode. We will see you guys next week. I think we're going to change the date from Monday to
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Yeah, and so because we don't want to compete with, the football. Wednesday we probably be competing with a little bit of church, but it's gonna be okay. So Wednesday, and then make sure you guys tune in Thursday to what would my daddy say, and tomorrow on
There's no interaction between her.
to
Look, shout out to all them ladies out there with their fathers in their lives. Y'all got
yeah,
gifts, man.
yeah, yeah. And then tomorrow, Miss City Network, the Small Business Podcast. We thank you again. And we'll see you guys next week. Toodles. Love you. And elevate. Bye
Elevate.
bye.